starting a new project today. It's my very first time doing LED lights. I've been wanting to try this out for a couple years now, and I finally got all of my items. So here's my neon lights. This is the LED neon strip. I just got a regular like white color. This is the 16-inch, and hopefully it's long enough for my project. If it's not, I'll go ahead and order a couple more. But to keep it simple, I bought one that already had the wiring on one end, and it came with the power cable. I also bought this silicone hook wire kit, and all of the tutorials told me to get the 30 gauge wire. So I went and got the 30 gauge wire. I have a soldering kit that I'm borrowing from my brother, and we're gonna go ahead and try this out. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and do my logo design. I think that's just a great way to start and get my feet all wet in this project. I have this acrylic board. I'm just gonna cut it out on my laser, and I will write my logo out so that I could use it on here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start off by making my logo to size. I'm gonna have min to be, and then I think I'll have designs on the bottom, but I'll engrave the bottom, the designs part. So let me see if I could pull up my logo. I'm using Adobe Illustrator here to create my design that I'm going to be cutting onto my acrylic. So anything that's thick, I'm going to make a single line or super thin, and then I'm going to separate the different colors depending on if I want it scored or engraved. And with the laser, I can also cut out all of the small holes that I need in order to thread all of the wires to the back of the acrylic. Okay, so with my digital caliper, I have it on 0, and then let me see how thick this line is. Okay, this is 0.02 inches, and I'll have 2, so let's just do 0.1. I don't know if that's too small. You'll also want to do an offset path in order to create that outline in the background, and also keep in mind of where you want your wire to end and where it's going to be, because you want to make a bigger hole for the wires. I didn't do that for my project, but I know for my future projects that I need to do that, so keep that in mind. On my acrylic sheet, I'm going to actually remove the original masking tape. Typically I remove this and put my own masking on here, but I'm going to try a new method of just not having masking on here. I was told that you can engrave and cut without the masking, so let's give it a try. I'm going to get an alcohol wipe, and I'm going to wipe this down. Something about static electricity or something, I don't really know, but I'm gonna wipe it down. It'll also get rid of my acrylic dust. I had the designs part just all engraved, like that. And then I had the other part scored. I made the lines thinner, made this single line, and so we're gonna go ahead and start. For this project, you're going to need some neon lights and some wire kits. You could buy all of this off Amazon. I'll link my items that I bought down below. You technically need just 2 colors or just 1, but I think for beginners 2 colors will be essential. An X-Acto knife or something super sharp, scissors, as well as an adhesive glue. I'm using this Loctite super glue. It's my go-to glue, so here we go. I also bought this LED light that has the end power part. I just realized that as I was doing this project that I should have created a bigger hole for the end piece so that I could wire this portion to the back of my lighting, but this is okay, it's all a learning process. Let's also plug it in to make sure that it works. Yay, it's so bright, I'm so excited. And so we're gonna go ahead and start. We're going to just measure out roughly how much of this wire I need to cut. And so when you get to the end point of where you need to cut, you want to make sure to look at the wire. There's a little brown or copper little line that is where the soldering or the adhesive is going to be going. So you want to make sure that when you do cut, you cut after that line. That way we have a place for the two wires to connect to one another. Let's go ahead and start gluing this LED light to our acrylic piece. I'm using this Loctite super glue, and I did realize that if there's a little bit of spillage on the acrylic, it turns white. So if anybody who's done this project before has a better recommendation for glue, let me know down below. So if you are using this super glue or any other super glue, just make sure that you use a little bit. A little goes a long way, and you just don't want the spillage. For this sharp corner, I'm actually just using my clamp to clamp it down. I know some people cut portions of the wire or portion of the LED light covering, but I didn't do that for this project. I'll probably do that for another one. Once you get closer to the end of that wire, you're going to want to open it up. This is where your X-Acto knife is going to be handy. Now you could see that that little gold or copper area is exposed, and if you look onto the other side, you'll see the two little dots that we're going to be adhering the solder to the wire so that we could continue the lights on all of the broken pieces of our LED portions. A quick tip that I learned is that you want to warm up that little area and place a little bit of solder on there before you try to adhere the wire. This is going to help a lot and make it a lot easier, especially if you have only two hands and not that many things to clamp everything in place. Is that in between the soldering things, you want to clean this up, and then you'll want to put a little bit of solder on here so that it doesn't corrode and get like damaged. So go ahead and take it off, and then I'm going to go ahead and place a little bit of solder in here like so. Okay, so when we're doing this, what we're going to do is we're going to warm up. We'll warm up this little gold area, and then we're going to place the solder on that little point of the melting thing and just place a little dollop of the solder on top. So warm up this area, zoom. And once you're done, you'll have two little silver dots on top of that copper area. So now with your wire, you're going to take about maybe ½ an inch off of that wire. I just used my nails to just kind of pinch and remove, and you're going to see all of these frailed wires. So I like to actually twist it with my fingers, and then I'm going to bend it so it's kind of like a U shape, and this is going to help us out a lot when we go to put this on our solder. So if you look here on our little metal solder area, we're going to be able to put this hook around that area, and then we're going to melt that solder with our soldering iron, and it's going to be super simple to adhere it together. Here's an example of what we're talking about. We're going to place this little wire on top of that solder stop, and we're going to melt it. It dries really fast, so you want to work fairly quickly, and this is why it's helpful to have that little dollop there so that you don't need a third hand or another tool to hold your wire in place. You gotta cut close to this little brown area right here so that we could have another connector. I gotta go to the next spot, and then we're going to cut this here. From the wire here, I went ahead and I threaded it to the back. So we're going to use this wire, and we're going to bring it back up through the hole. And with each time you solder, you want to make sure you're keeping track of which one is your positive wire and which one is your negative wire. If you were to cross these paths, then when you go to light up your LED light, it's not going to turn on. So quick tip, or a good tip, is to plug it in every time or test it out so that you know in fact that it is working. As I mentioned before, all of the places that we're adhering the wires to is that copper circle around area. So if you've come to an area where that place exceeds the wire length, you're going to want to cut through the wire, but not through that wiring plate. So let me show you this demonstration here. So we're cutting that little plastic outer area, but we're going to keep the internal lights intact. That way we could still adhere the wire to there, and we could fold this up and hide it later on. Is for this one, I'm actually going to fold it in. I'm going to fold it in. So I'm actually going to open this up. So that I could place it back in there. And then the wire is going to be, I'm going to have it facing this way. So I'm going to get another set. So here with my wire, you see that I am placing it the opposite way. That way when I am done, I could fold it into the neon sign and the wires could still be poking outwards. One thing to be mindful of is that when you are soldering, that the wires do not cross. And this also means that when they have the frilly wires, if they're touching one another from the positive and the negative, your light's not going to work out. And this is what happened here. So I'm using my X-Acto to carefully pry both parts aside from one another. That way it could turn back on. And we'll go ahead and complete the rest of the project using the methods that we learned here. I did buy caps for all of the ends that are opened here, but it didn't come in time for this tutorial, so I'll go ahead and make a video about that later on. It will definitely make your piece look more cohesive and more complete, but in any case, this is such a great practice piece for me, and I learned so much while I was making this project for myself. So here is what the piece looks like before I remove the back of my acrylic piece. I think it looks so great. There's definitely things that I could fix and tweak a little bit, but all in all, it's a great project. Once it's plugged in, that's where the magic happens. It just brings the piece straight to life. I did also notice that the part that I engraved, the designs part, is not going to be really flashy or bright, but that's quite alright because my main focus of my sign was definitely the meant to be aspect. Well, all in all, I hope that this tutorial was very helpful for you. It was definitely a great learning experience for me, and if you're a professional in this field, do let me know any tips and tricks that you have that will allow me to improve on my project going forward. Please make sure to subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.